Yo, I'm Nash Bandit. It's 2023, and unsurprisingly, I'm going into the new year with a Kane Roberts video. Hey, what else did you expect from me? I'm a simple woman. So, it's Kane time. Now, today I'm taking a step back in time, because while this is a particularly popular part of Kane's catalog, I'm still just nowhere near satisfied with the coverage it's gotten. And trust me, when I was digging for info, I of course found more stuff that people don't talk about. Without further ado, let's kick off 2023 with a dive into the legendary Saints and Sinners album. Saints and Sinners is the second solo album of Alice Cooper guitarist Kane Roberts, released on March 5th, 1991 on Geffen Records. I've seen other release dates noted for this album, but after asking Michael Alago and seeing the dates on certain interviews, I feel it's safe to say that March 5th is the correct date. And of course, I'm going to give a bit of a rundown of this album and some of the timeline behind it, just as I have for the rest of Kane's projects that I have covered here. After Kane's self-titled debut album got released, and Alice Cooper's Raise Your Fist and Yell album, which released a week later, I really don't... Okay, what kind of advertising is that? That gives, no time for Kane's album to get off the ground before people focus on Alice's album. And who am I kidding? It's fucking MCA. I've heard a fair bit about MCA's flaws when it came to rock music, like with distribution, because they didn't have a dedicated rock division or something like that, and how they had an R&B guy handling it. So I shouldn't be shocked here. Maybe they had their reasons, but fuck if I know. Anyways, after those albums were released in late 1987, and the tour for the latter album throughout 1987 and 1988, it's no surprise that Kane would want to record a second album. So, within that year, Kane made plans to begin work on a follow-up, and with his plans to start recording this album in late spring of 1988, ideas were bound to be brewing in his head throughout the Raise Your Fist and Yell tour, which was also known as the Live in the Flesh tour. And presumably, once the tour ended in May of 1988, Kane's efforts for a second solo album began. Writing songs, recording demos, figuring out the general sound of the album, Kane was in full swing. Almost. I say almost because by the time August came around that year, ultimately, Kane and Alice would find themselves parting ways, going under different record labels. Kane under Geffen thanks to Michael Alago, and Alice would wind up under Epic. As such, Kane left Alice's band to focus on his new album. But trust me, the collaborations between these two weren't truly over. Not by a long shot. Late in 1988, Desmond Child joined the mix, writing with Alice, and also writing with Kane during this new era. And this shared connection would result in a component of a particular song on Alice's next album that would release in summer of 1989. Bed of Nails. Yes, Kane would play guitar on that one song, and I feel it's a glimpse of how the entirety of the Trash album would have sounded had Kane stuck around. It also provides a sort of midpoint for Kane's musical evolution between 1987 and 1991, considering a lot can change in that span of time. Kane would work hard on this new project, with many familiar and new faces joining the mix as he did so. Though he did have time to contribute to other projects, whether it was his contribution on Bed of Nails with Alice Cooper on the 1989 Trash album, or appearing in Wes Craven's 1989 movie Shocker as a road worker and contributing to the soundtrack for that movie, or him co-writing the song Take It Off with Paul Stanley and Bob Ezrin on Kiss's Revenge album in 1991, his focus was predominantly on this new album. Though despite this, it would take a few years to finish the album. I mean, that's kind of obvious, work started in 1988. But in 1991, the album came to fruition. Saints and Sinners. An album that showed that many aspects of Kane's musical style had been refined as time went on, whether it was his guitarmanship or his singing. Yes, his singing. Kane actually went through vocal training for this album, and it is very apparent when you compare his singing on his debut album in 1987 to his singing on Saints and Sinners. And believe it or not, Kane has actually said who his vocal coach was. Bruce Eckstedt, who not only has worked with people like Steven Tyler, but Bruce and Kane would actually work together again in later years. Something I've learned in my time of being a fan of Kane is that he has a lot of connections that he utilizes very well, and this is no exception. Not only that, but another part of Kane had changed since his time with Alice Cooper. His physique. Yes, the Rambo look-alike days had faded away, with a much more trimmed down, yet still very much fit Kane, emerging with the release of this album. Kane's obsession with the gym had eased up, though Kane has also provided a rather funny explanation for this decision that I'll read word for word from an interview. Your bodybuilding look back then, was that something you did on your own pre-Alice? Or did the Cooper camp encourage the over-the-top/steroids image? Alice and I are both obsessive about everything we do. The weightlifting caught me and I went a little crazy with it. I stopped when I realized that the smaller my legs got, the bigger my dick looked. I can't... Dude, okay, quotes like this from Kane are why when he says this shit, I just say, this is the most Kane Roberts answer ever sometimes, because you cannot get any less Kane than that. Oh, that's a classic quote to me. It's one of my favorites to show people. Oh, and one last part about Kane's appearance changing. Okay, two. Because one of these aspects I've just never seen anyone mention over the years. For one, Kane's hair was less curly. And this would actually gradually continue through the years as Kane got older, so it wasn't a sudden change as some people might think upon comparing him in the 80s to him nowadays. Secondly, this is a very odd thing to bring up, but it's actually his teeth? Yeah, he has teeth straightened. You know what? Good for him. What works for Kane works for me. But with all of that together, Kane had a new look. And he wasn't messing around. He was on his own and ready to rock once again. Now, with that background set, let's get into the album itself. Everyone involved in the making of it, the songs, the singles, and the music videos. The lineup involved with this album consists of Kane Roberts on vocals and guitars, John McCurry on guitars, Chuck Kentis on keyboards, Steve Steele on bass, and Myron Grumbacher on the drums. Some of these names may be familiar to some of you, aside from Kane's, so I'll give you guys some background on them. Steve Steele was the bassist in Kane's solo band before this album, a band known as Criminal Justice before the name was dropped entirely. He was also in Alice Cooper's band during the Raise Your Fist and Yell era. Not only that, he was also on Kane's debut solo album as a result of being part of Kane's solo band, so his work with Kane continues on this album. He can also be seen in not only the Freedom music video, but in one of the music videos for Kane's debut album, Rock Doll. John McCurry is not only a very well-known guitarist, but he is also a composer, songwriter, and singer who has worked with many people, such as Cher, who we'll find has a bit of a connection to Saints and Sinners in a way. He's a man of many talents, much like Kane, so it's no surprise that these two meshed together pretty well for this album. Odds are he met Kane through his connection with Alice Cooper, as John has a few co-writes on Alice's Trash album. Though I haven't seen anything confirming or denying this, it just makes sense to me. Chuck Kentis is a keyboardist who, much like John McCurry, has worked with many other artists. Amusingly, he's actually worked with Rod Stewart, something he has in common with Kane, as Kane played on the Every Beat of My Heart album. Furthermore, Chuck worked with Rod during 1991, so that only makes this more amusing to me. Myron Grumbacher is known as the drummer of not only Pat Benatar, appearing on many of her albums, but he was also a drummer for Rick Derringer as well, appearing on a few of his albums as both a drummer and a vocalist. As far as I'm aware, he doesn't provide any vocals for Saints and Sinners, nor did he provide any vocals for his work with Pat Benatar. There is one more familiar face that we'll see here, Arthur Funaro, who has a few co-writes on this album. He was one of Kane's bandmates during the Alice Cooper years, going under the names of Devlin 7 and Johnny Dime. Now that those big names are covered, it's time to talk about the songs off this album. There are 10 tracks on it. Wild Nights, Twisted, Does Anybody Really Fall in Love Anymore, Dance Little Sister, Rebel Heart, You Always Want It, Fighter, I'm Not Looking for an Angel, Too Far Gone, and It's Only Over for You. The singles, in order of release, are Twisted, which has no B-side, Does Anybody Really Fall in Love Anymore, which either had an edited version paired with the LP version, or had I'm Not Looking for an Angel as a B-side, and Wild Nights, which had Rebel Heart as a B-side. The third of these seems to be more of a non-American release, but seeing as it's noted on Discogs as a 1992 release, I feel it's worth noting. And while I haven't seen anything saying this song was a single, some copies of Saints and Sinners note 3 songs as being featured tracks. Twisted, Does Anybody Really Fall in Love Anymore, and Dance Little Sister. I'm not sure why Dance Little Sister is featured, as it doesn't have a music video or a known single release, but my guess is that it may just be because it's directly after the former 2 songs, so Geffen decided to make it a triple whammy. And since I mentioned music videos, there were 2 music videos from this album, Twisted and Does Anybody Really Fall in Love Anymore. I'll cover the music videos with their respective songs as a whole, as I feel that will make this a lot easier to digest as a result. And it makes it more organized. Now, it's time for me to jump into these tracks and review them. Wild Nights is the first track on this album, written by Kane Roberts, Arthur Funaro, Steve Steele, and Desmond Child. This song gives us a very interesting start to this album, and a taste of what to expect from this album. We hear thunder, rain, voices in the distance, and a beastly snarl to kick off this song with a cinematic touch. And to those who are wondering just what kind of animal this growl is intended to come from, it's a gorilla. Yeah, I know, what a shocker. Kane's fondness for gorillas continues on from songs like Thrill My Gorilla from Alice Cooper's Constrictor album, and Gorilla from Kane's debut album. That aside, the song continues with keyboards chiming in, adding further to the atmosphere of the song. I can vividly imagine it being a rainy night, dark, with brief flashes of lightning illuminating and reflecting off the puddles on the ground. The rain begins to fade, the stars in the sky becoming clear, and then the guitar begins to hum. And then the song really begins. Kane lets out a killer intro solo, and then we get our first experience hearing his newfound voice, refined, yet still as powerful as ever. Tonight's the night, the darkness surrounds you, and this song embodies this perfectly. A song full of passion and lust, this continues Kane's writing themes of sex and power from his first album. With lyrics like "Just let my fantasies go to your head," and "On this bed of fire you're burning it down," the once calm atmosphere has been burned to the ground. This song is a perfect opener, and it's something that's bound to leave an impression on anyone listening to this album. And of course, I have to talk about the solo in this song. Kane pulls off some beautiful harmonization towards the end of it, and the solo continues through the final chorus as Kane belts out, "I live and die for your love." And to further the impact, this song doesn't end with a fade out, leaving you stunned with no time to recover. This is arguably one of my all-time favorite songs from Kane, with some of my favorite lyrics he's ever written. "The shadows dance like demons around you" is a very poetic lyric, and man do I fucking love it. Weirdly, this song is the final single of this album, as I mentioned earlier. I don't know what that's about, but this song feels like single material to me, so I'm not complaining. As an additional note, back in 2004, Kane got to talk about this song briefly on Metal Sludge. I'll read what he said here. "Pretty good guitar, great rhythm section. The lyrics don't get me hard though." I wholeheartedly agree with the first half, especially on the guitar, because this solo is one of my all-time favorite Kane solos. It's one I have to replay a lot. But the second half... Kane, I like the lyrics. I mean, okay, he's gonna have a different opinion than I do, inevitably. But I could still be dramatic. That's what friends do. And as your friend, Kane, I think you did a good job on those lyrics, and you're being hard on yourself. I have no room to poke at him on that. I'm the same way with my own creations. Twisted is next, written by Kane Roberts, Diane Warren, and Desmond Child. This is the first single off this album, and I finally get to talk about the music video as well, since this song received one as you'd expect. Because it's a lot to talk about, and I'm not just talking about the themes of the video. But we'll get into that once I talk about the song itself. The song starts with a very catchy guitar riff, with the drums slamming in hard as it continues on. This song continues the pattern set by Wild Nights in its lyric themes, because with lyrics like "You Like It Down and Dirty," Kane has once again focused in on sex as inspiration. feel like this song could be seen as a successor to the song If This Is Heaven off of Kane's 1987 debut album, with a sort of BDSM, pleasure and pain game. Come on, bend me till you break me, tease me till it kills me, and tie me in the knot until I beg for mercy, scream and shout as lyrics only proves my point here. And the music video only drives this point even further. And for a fun fact about the solo in this song, I'll read something Kane said in the comment online. We had a huge debate over the solo on Twisted, to shred or not to shred. I decided to keep it slightly demented and way in the pocket with fewer notes. I did the solo with a glass slide on one of my fingers to mix up the techniques, etc. Ah, how I love hearing little stories like this. I wonder how a more shred solo would have sounded in the song now that I've heard this. Well, unless Kane drops a demo of the song anytime soon, I guess we'll never know. The music video, which features Tanya Coleridge, a model and actress who would also appear in Van Halen's music video for their song Pound Cake in the same year, is entirely in black and white. Kane can be seen in a black straitjacket in some shots, or a see-through top, but more often than not, he's got his hands bound by a rope as he's dragged across the ground by Tanya and another woman, wearing black latex and having a fun time toying with Kane. This video absolutely gets me every time, with my favorite shot being after the solo in this song, where Kane crawls towards the camera, singing "Love Me Till I'm on the Ground." But there's another aspect of this music video that I've noticed that no one has brought any attention to. There's actually alternate versions of this video. Yeah, for some reason, if you watch every single upload of this video on YouTube, you'll find that all of them will have some sort of difference, whether it's the strobe shots being slightly different or having entirely different shots at certain points. I'll show an example of what I mean by this actually, and I'll use the same part of the song to prove my point. As you can see, those shots are entirely different, and that's just one example. However, this isn't something that's a mystery, not when you look more into it. It turns out the censorship board had some problems with some of the video. You know, considering there were scathed themes of it. Typical, right? I'll read directly from an interview where this is talked about during April of 1991. The first single, Twisted, is out now, and the accompanying video clip met with some censorship problems when it arrived at the doorstep of MTV. It's a great video, Roberts defends. It's very sexy, but a little off-center, I suppose. It features two of my favorite women in thin latex corsets, and there are some ropes and, well, you get the idea. It's tastefully done though. MTV was totally behind it and fought to keep it in the way it was, but there were a few scenes the censorship board objected to. So we recut it and now everybody's happy. So my guess is that perhaps these earlier cuts may have been preserved in some form and have wound up online somehow. Now I don't have any confirmation on this, but that's the most logical guess I can come up with. But I'm not quite done with this yet, because during that 2004 Metal Sledge interview, Kane talks about Twisted a bit, and something that's pretty interesting. I'll read it now. We heard that your song Twisted, also from the Saints and Sinners album, was re-recorded by Mike Matijevic for inclusion in the movie Rockstar. Were you stoked about having one of your songs in that movie, and did you end up seeing any coin because of it? I think they recorded Reckless, and yeah, I was stoked. I've had a number of songs in films, and yes, they do send me checks, and yes, I enjoy that. Twisted was actually in a William Dafoe / Susan Sarandon film called Sleeper. The first time I read this, I decided to look into this movie. The movie's full title is Light Sleeper, which was released on March 13th, 1992. And there was nothing uploaded online that shows this song being in this movie. But there was something on a site called tunefind.com that said that this song is in this movie. So what did I do? I got my hands on the movie, and I watched it to find out if it was, in fact, there. Well, guess what? It's there! It appears somewhat early on, the music video is playing on TV, and the song can be heard in the background throughout the scene. I've uploaded it here, so if you want to see the scene in question, it's here on my channel. Enjoy! Up next is the second single of this album, Does Anybody Really Fall in Love Anymore? AKA the song with the longest title on this album. Seriously, as I'm writing this script, not only have I had to type this song title a fair few times in both this script and while doing research for this video, but as I'm writing this, Kane posted about this song online, and he specifically pointed out the lengthiness of the song title. So even Kane is fully aware of this. That aside, written by Jon Bon Jovi, Richie Sambora, Diane Warren, and Desmond Child, this is the only song Kane doesn't have a co-write on, and it's also the most well-known song from this album. I mentioned this album had a funny connection to Cher earlier, and this song is that connection, because she actually did this song on her Heart of Stone album in 1989. Not only that, but this was originally meant to be a Bon Jovi song, and you can find a demo of the Bon Jovi version online if you want to hear the origins of the song. But we're obviously talking about Kane's rendition, so let's talk about this version. This is the ultimate ballad from this album, starting with a beautiful keyboard intro, which is apparently the key part of the song that made Geffen want it on this album. No, seriously, you think I'm bullshitting you, but I'll put in a clip where Kane actually says this.
We went into one radio stations, everybody wants the P1, P2, P3 station, so we go into some station. And I see some guy there, we're waiting for the program director, right? So there's another record company guy there. I don't know what the label is. And he's sitting there with a box of donuts. And I think there's donuts in it, but I'm going to assume that that's what it was, And so he comes out, and the program director, he sees the Geffen guy, and he says, all right, come on in, And we go in, and it's for that song, Does Anybody Really Fall in Love Anymore? So he sits down, he goes, all right, play me the song, So the keyboard goes, dun, 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 and he goes, oh, I'm adding it. That's fucking awesome. And then he looks to the guy and he goes, so how you been? So obviously the deal was cut way before I went there. He bought the guy a BMW. I mean, who the fuck knows what happened? That's good. I just went, well, at least he loved the keyboards in the beginning. That was enough,
There it is. So already was that one of those guys right there?
Yeah.
Vic is quick. I'll give our producer that. He's quick on this stuff, man. You got to give him a lot of credit in the chat.
See? I told you. Now, after these beautiful keyboards, Kane comes in, lamenting about his loneliness, searching for an angel, but heaven can't be found. Yes, I slipped in the lyrics themselves there. But seriously, with lyrics like, so why is everybody so afraid to cross that line, and how he cries out, you've got to love somebody, this song will absolutely punch you in the heart. And this song really starts to show off some of Kane's new singing, with him hitting high notes that he didn't hit on his previous album. That vocal training didn't just refine what Kane already had, but it also widened his range. And we'll see more of that as we go on through this album, because amazingly, these are not the highest notes that he hits on this album. Despite that though, I still just absolutely adore the notes he hits at the end of this song. This is something that wasn't on his last album, and it's very much welcome here. As for the single itself, I feel it's necessary to talk about the version of it that I own, and a difference that I have found in versions of this release. My version is a CD release, and it has two versions of this song. The LP release, and an edited release that I can only assume was meant for radio play, as it's the first track and is about 30 seconds shorter than the final release. But there is another release, which I'm like 99% sure is a vinyl release considering it has a B-side, and the B-side is I'm Not Looking for an Angel. And the music video is an absolute masterpiece. I am a sucker for pretty lighting, and this video is full of it. It's also full of Kane putting himself in danger apparently, because at one point Kane said he almost fell off the 25-foot riser. And for those who use the metric system, That's 7.62 meters. So, you know, pretty high up. Maybe that's where the inspiration for his song Reckless came from. That'd be funny. That aside, the giant fans in this video providing loads of beautiful shots of Kane's hair blowing in the wind, the orange and blue contrasting with each other perfectly, and much like Twisted, Kane has different looks through this video, switching between a black shirt and a white shirt. One of my favorite parts of this music video has to be the part where Kane breaks a mirror with his guitar. There's just something so perfect about that being paired with the lyric, "There's a sad face in the mirror, and I'm sad to say it's me." If you somehow haven't seen this video, or the videos? I'm sorry, Twisted's music video ordeal is still hard to get used to. But if you haven't seen any of these videos, seriously, watch them. We also get to see clear shots of Kane playing his Candy Red Ibanez Maxus in this video, which he obtained back during the Alice Cooper days. That guitar wasn't used on stage much, and while it can be seen in rehearsal footage for the Raise Your Fist and Yell tour, it was more a studio guitar until this point. He also plays that guitar in the Twisted video, but it's harder to notice if you aren't watching for it. Plus, we also get to see Steve Steele in this video playing bass. This is more of a traditional sort of music video with the band playing the music for a considerable portion of the video. Now that I think about it, this means we have an equal amount of Kane music videos where there's a band playing, and Kane music videos where there isn't a band playing. It's like a spectrum too. Rock Doll is at the far end of the band playing end, and Beginning of the End is at the far end of the no band playing end. Perfectly balanced. The next song is Dance Little Sister, which I still question why it's known as one of the featured songs when it wasn't a single, nor was it a B-side. Written by Kane Roberts, Jack Ponte, Vic Pepe, and Desmond Child, right away Kane swings us back into the themes that Wild Nights had. With lyrics like, "Oh, it's dangerous to love, but tonight I'll get you to take a chance." Kane is being as enticing as ever. I especially love the intro to this song because it gets straight to the point. Dance, little sister, dance. We also get a bit of keyboards throughout this song, sprinkled in here and there, as a treat. And we also finally get a song with a key change, which provides Kane with the opportunity to really hit some high notes. And that's what he does, shouting closer to the beat of my heart. The fade out lasts a good while, so we get to savor that key change too. But there is one issue that is exclusive to the modern age. This song is meant to fade out, right? Well, yes, it does. But on streaming services and on the auto-generated upload for this song, for some reason, the intro for Rebel Heart kicks in rather jarringly. And this isn't much of an issue if you're listening to the entire album in one sitting. It is, however, when you have this song, and by extension Rebel Heart, on your playlist, and you want to shuffle stuff around. In fact, I'll play these uploads now, recorded to show you that I haven't edited this to make up some bullshit claim. See what I mean? I'm not sure what happened here, and I can't think of any sort of theory either. On my CD, this isn't an issue. The songs play like they're meant to. And trust me, I know, because as I'm writing this script, I'm listening to these songs as I go through them to note certain things on them. On repeat. So I've heard Dance Little Sister play as it's actually intended to, way too many times to count. And to further prove my point, I'll have you know that I have uploaded Rebel Heart on here as part of my Unsung Radio Deluxe project. And it doesn't have this issue because it is from the CD release. In fact, I double-checked my CD just to make sure, and sure enough, even the 2012 reissue of this album does not have that issue. So that's my proof of it being exclusively a streaming platform issue. If anything, this just makes it more confusing, because I genuinely cannot figure out how this happened. Speaking of Rebel Heart, let's cover that song. Written by Kane Roberts, Arthur Funaro, Steve Steele, and Desmond Child, this song would be the B-side to the 1992 single release of Wild Nights. It's a song of heartbreak. I'm standing in the rain, so no one can see me cry, is a heart-wrenching lyric. And with the conflict Kane sings about, how staying would be living a lie, yet he still thinks about turning back, wondering if she'd leave a light on for him in the night. And the way he sings these lyrics only tears me up even more. This song is filled with keyboards that accentuate the emotions this song brings. And the guitar at the start of the verses just adds to the heartache that Kane conveys throughout this song. And the intensity of the song ramping up as Kane cries out, "I got a rebel heart, I gotta run and it's tearing me apart," is the cherry on top of it all. This song is a masterpiece. And clearly, I'm not the only one who felt this way. Because when it came to Kane's next album, Under a Wild Sky, released with his band Phoenix Down in 1999, it would actually feature a re-recorded version of this song. It was done at the request of the Now and Then record label, so I suggest you take a listen to both listens to hear how Kane's sound further evolved past Saints and Sinners. You Always Wanted is up next, written by Kane Roberts, Steve Steele, and Desmond Child. And this song is a nice dose of the classic Kane Roberts whiplash after Rebel Heart, because with a similar intro to Dance Little Sister, where we get a taste of the chorus, the drums kick in, and they kick in hard. I've said this many times online, but never in a video. The drums in this song make me want to stomp holes in my floor. The way they boom is so badass. And of course, this song as a whole amps me the fuck up. It's catchy, and with the lyrics, "So you wanna go crazy, burn your boring life to the ground," this song is bound to get your adrenaline rushing. Interestingly, on the original release, the lyrics "Bad Boys Want Salvation" was actually used in the packaging. It's really cool, and it fits the Saints and Sinners title very well in this sense. And I gotta talk about the ending of the song, because there's something so badass about Kane roaring, "You can't get enough," over and over again. That energy is contagious, because when I hear it, I want to join in and yell until I am red-faced and left without my voice. Also, for some reason, it's very specifically in your left ear. The mental image of Kane just yelling into someone's ear is really funny for some reason. Before I move on from this song, though, I must bring up the fact that, much like Rebel Heart, this song would also receive a re-recording on the Under a Wild Sky album, but not on the regular release. No, it was actually exclusive to the Japanese release as a bonus track, alongside Walking on Shadows, which did eventually get a release on 2012's Unsung Radio. The re-recording of You Always Want It, however, didn't get this treatment for some reason. So for the longest time, this song was nowhere online, aside from a 30-second snippet. I had to buy a specific CD myself to upload the song online, and in the process, I got 2 copies. I guess Kane was right. I can't get enough. Jokes aside though, this song actually changes a lot in the re-recording, while Rebel Heart stays pretty true to the original. Most notably, the intro changes, becoming more similar to the song Triple X off of Kane's 1987 debut album. Along with this, there are numerous lyric changes. In fact, let's compare the second versions of both versions.
money. Fat cats never get enough to eat. Rich man wants to walk the dirty streets. Shout it out till it kills you. Nobody's even listening, so they bought and sold you and do it again.
I suggest that you listen to both of these songs back to back, to not only hear Kane's musical evolution, but to compare how this song changed. It's very interesting if you ask me, because it goes from a song about being someone who craves danger outside their mundane life, to a song about going against the grain, fighting everything that opposes you and not letting it stop you from getting what you want. Fighter is up next, written by Kane Roberts and Desmond Child. This song is a rather popular song off this album, often mentioned by many Kane fans when talking about this album, and it's for good reason. This song will motivate anybody to push on, with Kane singing, "Give it all you got and never look back." This song also tells a bit of a story as well, about a kid growing up and pushing on through hardships because of his father's advice and with a letter he holds on to. It's a powerful song, and it's bound to pull at your heartstrings. After a killer solo from Kane, my favorite part of the song comes up. When you think you're losing and your back's against the wall, don't give up, you won't fall. And then the key change. Kane hits his highest notes on this album, getting higher and higher until he lets out one last "you better be a fighter," where the notes reach their peak. This song showcases Kane's vocal range beautifully, showing just how much it had increased with his vocal training after his first album. Also, I realized that this song doesn't really have any keyboards in it. And honestly, I think that works very well for this song. It makes it stand out, and if this album were to have had another single, I think this song would have been it. This song is also one that Kane has frequently referenced and mentioned, whether it's having the lyrics be the backdrop for his website back in the day, or Kane acknowledging just how inspirational it has been for many of us fans. The next song is "I'm Not Looking for an Angel," the B-side for "Does Anybody Really Fall in Love Anymore?" Written by Kane Roberts, Desmond Child, and John McCurry, this song has an interesting intro to say the least. Crickets chirping in the night, church bells, an organ, and a woman moaning in pleasure. This song can be a bit awkward to play out loud if you don't give a heads up, but considering a lot of songs have done this, it seems Kane wanted in on that action. And then, Kane's guitar kicks in, with a signature solo with that Kane Roberts flair. And also, cowbell, which is mostly at the beginning of the song, but it does return at the end. It's taking every bit of my being to resist the more cowbell chokes. That aside, this song is in the same category as Twisted, with lyrics like "I'm addicted to the pain of your love" and "Your heart is void of mercy." The pleasure and pain game has made a return. You know what they say, no pain, no Kane. The keyboard that's in the chorus makes this song a real earworm too. And don't get me started on the solo that starts off with some ear-to-ear action, something I absolutely love. This is nothing new for Kane, as Alice Cooper's song, "Simple Disobedience," off of the Constructor album, has this as well. So it's nice to see how this method sounds with Kane's style having evolved so much by now. And the ending of this song just feels so representative of the era. I don't know how exactly to explain what I mean, but I could just see the stage lights, with Kane at the mic, the crowd singing along. It stirs up such vivid images in my mind, that I feel like this song would have been perfect for a music video. Though it would have absolutely have had the same ordeal as Twisted had with the censorship board. You cannot convince me otherwise. I do have one more thing to add to this before I move on to the next song though. As I was writing the script, I was informed by Kane that there was actually a cover of the song done by a German artist that Kane was hired to play on an album with. I'm not sure how the cover came about, but odds are it came from the fact that Kane collaborated with them. And after a quick bit of digging, I found that it was a musician named Dan Lucas, and that this song's cover appears on the 1994 album 2000. I know, what a name for an album before the year 2000. And not only does Kane provide backing vocals on this album, but he plays guitar on 2 songs. It's Only Money and By the Riverside, the former of which he has writing credits for. Wait a minute. He doesn't play on I'm Not Looking for an Angel? He's credited as a writer, but non-instruments or vocals on that track. Well, it's still noteworthy. Moving on from that, Too Far Gone is the next song, written by Kane Roberts, Arthur Funaro, Steve Steele, and Desmond Child. And I feel this song is similar to Wild Nights in a way, with Kane acting as a guide and fulfilling the fantasies of whatever woman may be listening to this song. Once again, Kane's themes of sex and power in his songwriting are at play, while also showing the vulnerability of those aspects. The way this song immediately starts with Kane going, "Baby, come a little bit closer, let me inside," immediately knocks all the wind out of me. It just kills me. And that paired with the lyrics, "Now you know I'm the one who can make you stay here just a little bit longer," Kane knows how to lure you in. And of course, this song has the keyboards, and Kane starts to work up the high notes before the solo, because trust me, he gets into the high notes once again with this song. After the solo, and one last verse, the song hits a key change during the chorus, as Kane begins to yell out, "'Cause you're too far gone," hitting the high notes with the final word there. Also, I need to mention how the chorus of this song reminds me of Bon Jovi's You Give Love a Bad Name with the general sound. Like, very specifically the keyboards. But it's not like they're identical by any means. Not even the lyrics, it's just the vibes that are similar. And I find that a bit funny when you remember the fact that Does Anybody Really Fall in Love Anymore was originally a Bon Jovi song. All in all, this is a good song. Much like Wild Nights, Kane talked about this song on Metal Sledge in 2004, so once again, I'll read it here. It had been written and rewritten so many times. It was a hit in some states, but I never would have guessed. Interesting. We get a glimpse into the development of this song. Now this makes me interested in a demo of this song. I want to see how it developed, or rather, hear how it developed. You know what I mean. I'm not surprised it was a hit in some places though, because again, it's a killer song. The final song is It's Only Over For You, written by Kane Roberts, Arthur Funaro, and Desmond Child, where the heartbreak themes return. Where Kane struggles to let go of a lost love, the lingering feelings after a breakup, with lyrics like "I see your face as I look in the mirror, and I lie about the pain as I walk through the fire," and the high notes on "Girl, you know it's over, but I keep holding on," just make my heart hurt. And do not get me started on Kane talking about his tears, because that is the easiest way for Kane to wrap me around his finger like a chain with songs like this. Okay, yes, I found a way to reference some of the lyrics. Get it? Like a chain, and the lyric "Your love's like a chain." Okay, back to the song. The way Kane sings this song just conveys the pain behind these lyrics in a painfully beautiful way. And the keyboards, once again, add so much to this. And the key change at the end that brings about the high notes I mentioned earlier adds to this masterpiece. And hey, guess what? Kane's talked about this section after the guitar solo. I'll read it now, actually. So I figure a little insight into the writing process here might be a bit useful, since there are a lot of musicians out there and writing is not only a fully amazing creative outlet, it's also the real estate of the music biz. I brought a very developed version of It's Only Over For You into a writing session with Desmond Child, and one of the sections we felt needed help was coming out of the solo into the ride out, one of my favorite solos because of how the techniques and colors evolve, and I recorded it in pretty much one pass. Close attention should be paid to that moment in song structure, because you want to take the listener to a fresh and engaging place throughout the piece. You've stated your case, laid out a story, and now you want to add something deeper both musically and spiritually. When Desmond started playing that keyboard chord pattern, we knew we were onto something kinda cool. Check out how it lifts the song into the final write-out. And yes, it is a cool thing to write with a gifted musician like D. Child. Rock on! I am so glad that this is one of Kane's favorite solos that he's done, because it's pure ear candy. Now sure, that could be said for any of Kane's solos, especially if you ask me. But this solo manages to make me tear up. It adds to the emotions that this song builds up. It's only over for you, Kane says. Ah, but not if I hit repeat, I say. No pain, no Kane. So when it comes to this song, I may as well stay true to that statement and let Kane take me on this emotional ride. And with that, the album is over. Kane ends it with a punch to our hearts, showing that despite his slimmed down physique, he's still got the strength to hit hard. So what else is there to cover? Well, how about the promotion? There's one thing I need to talk about first and foremost when it comes to the advertising, because I'm not sure what the promoters were thinking when it came to this. But I'll read something that can be found in the single release for Twisted. Until now, Kane Roberts was best known as co-writer and lead guitarist for Alice Cooper, or perhaps you know him from his collaborations with Rod Stewart, Motley Crue, and Guns N' Roses. Kane will face his judgment day when he brings his influential style to the forefront with the release of his debut album, Saints and Sinners. Produced by Desmond Child and Sir Arthur Payson, with contributions from Kane's friends Diane Warren, Jack Ponti, John McCurry, John Bon Jovi, and Richie Sambora, Saints and Sinners once and for all showcases the style and intense personality of this emerging superstar. Firstly, debut album? No? No, it's fucking not! What the fuck? No! It is not! It is not! This is his second album! Why the hell? What is the reason for this blatant lie? I mean, sure, you could say they're saying that it's Kane's debut on Geffen, but shouldn't they just say it's his Geffen debut and not just his debut in general? What benefit does this bring Kane? Genuinely, someone tell me, because quite frankly, that's fucking stupid. And not only that, but I need to call attention to some of the names listed here. Why is Motley Crue listed here? Is it because of Tommy Lee also having a part in the soundtrack for Shocker? If that's the case, why isn't Kiss listed here too? Paul Stanley literally did lead vocals alongside Desmond Child on the same song. The title track for the movie. They were all part of the Dudes of Wrath. And before anyone suggests Kiss could have also been on the list because Kane co-wrote Take It Off on Revenge, no, Revenge came out in 1992 and Take It Off wasn't a single, so there's no way Take It Off could have predated the 1992 release. Oh, and by the way, I'll cover more of my issues with the promotion side later, as I'd like to just talk about the general promotion before I get too angry to speak properly. So, firstly, Kane did a radio tour, going from city to city, state to state, promoting his album and the singles from it, and doing interviews. And while there's no footage or recording of these events, as far as I'm aware anyway, there was one particular event in Cincinnati where he performed the songs 2 Tickets to Paradise with Eddie Money. How cool is that? Not only that though, but at that event, there was an autograph session where Kane, among many other musicians, signed tons and tons of posters. And among these musicians was also Huey Lewis. And Kane managed to piss Huey off. I have to read the story in Kane's words, because holy shit, this is the funniest thing ever. My song was #1 in Cincy, so at this radio station's Star Party event, there were 40 celebrities and artists that signed autographs on this montage poster they had printed up for the event. After a long while, and over 1,000 autographs, I noticed everyone was signing their names really small under their photos, and I had been doing my normal size autograph that inadvertently covered Huey's face. 1,000 plus times! I was like, oh fuck! I looked down the long table and he was sitting in the last slot. So I decided to sign my name, small under my photo from that moment on. But there were only like 8 people left. I saw him at the party that night, and he was all mad at me and shit, and kind of feeling one too many beers, haha. What the fuck? I was like, hey, what about the power of love? Another funny thing that happened, in terms of promotion, was the end of Kane's endorsement with Kane'S. Ah yes, this is the story Kane has told quite a few times. Basically, Kane had to do a photo shoot for Circus magazine, I believe. Being a guitarist, naturally, the photographer felt it was necessary for Kane to have a guitar. And since Kane presumably didn't have one of his Kane'S guitars with him, what does the photographer hand him? A Gibson Les Paul. A solid guitar, yes, and a pretty well-known one. However, Kane'S did not like this. Presumably, they were probably pissed at Kane for this, despite it not being his fault, and booed him from the endorsement. Poor Kane. I mean, he got to keep the guitars and he wasn't too bothered by it, but I can still, sympathize with him. But now that I've mentioned a radio tour, someone's bound to be wondering, what about a tour? Being on stage, performing. Well, yeah, no, nothing like that happened. While Kane's first album not getting a tour seems understandable, as he had to tour for the Raise Your Fist and Yell album not long after, Saints and Sinners didn't have this ordeal. So, what happened? Well, simply put, Kane was a victim of bad timing. Shortly after the release of Saints and Sinners, the music world would change drastically. The rise of grunge. Now, that's not me saying the typical bullshit. Grunge killed rock. Nirvana killed rock. Shut up. Blame the industry. And that's coming from the chick with Glam Rock Bandit as her username. You'd think I would have the same closed-minded point of view, but truth be told, I don't. Thank fuck. Though seriously, Kane has talked about this ordeal a fair few times through the years, and he's pretty much said the same thing I am saying now. The culture changed, and the music industry sought to monetize it, to capitalize, to profit. And as such, they turned their sights on this new and rising music genre. Not only that, but it probably doesn't help that Geffen kinda screwed Kane over in the advertising, if you ask me anyway. But when I read this excerpt from Michael Alago's book, I Am Michael Alago, Breathing Music, Sighing Metallica, Beating Death, I finally learned that it wasn't just the music scene changing after all. I signed another artist to Geffen, Kane Roberts. He had been Alice Cooper's lead guitarist. He was a big, attractive guy who was very talented, and he knew a lot about writing catchy rock tunes. I had seen him live with Alice, and I knew about his work on MCA. He totally impressed me. Right away, it was clear that we got along musically and that we had a similar sense of humor. I knew I wanted to make a commercial, hard rock top 40 record with him. I contacted the hottest producer of the day, Desmond Child, to come work on Kane's Geffen debut album, Saints and Sinners. Desmond was hot off the heels of Cher, Ricky Martin, and Bon Jovi, among others. He was intensely busy, but he wanted to make this album with Kane. However, he left it largely in the hands of his engineer, Sir Arthur Payson. At one point, Kane and I discussed the problem of Desmond rarely being in the studio, because it started to bother us. Ultimately, though, we realized the songs were there, so we figured, let's just move forward. We also decided to pull a song off of Cher's album, Heart of Stone, because we loved it so much. The song was called Does Anybody Really Fall in Love, and it had been written by John Bon Jovi, Richie Sambora, and Diane Warren, who, at the time, could do no wrong. Every song Diane wrote turned into gold. We recorded it, and it eventually became a semi-hit for Kane, peaking at 38 on the Billboard charts. I was doing my best to keep the vibe of the record alive in the California Geffen offices, but they were not feeling it. At some point, they stopped promoting the album, and Kane was dropped. Fast forward to 2018, I executive produced the new Kane Roberts album, The New Normal on Frontiers Records, which was released in 2019. So yeah, Despite Kane getting a solid enough hit from this album, despite all the potential, despite the names attached to this album and its songs, despite Kane being well known as Alice Cooper's guitarist who revived his career, it wasn't good enough for Geffen in the end, apparently. And speaking of the new normal, oh how that awful fucking pattern continues. Oh, that's right! This became a pattern. Saints and Sinners, Under a Wild Sky, the new normal. And you could argue that Kane's first album falls into this too, considering MCA's track record. It's no fucking wonder Kane got fed up with the music industry. Because of bullshit like this. Yeah, no fucking wonder. And I'm not gonna apologize for my anger here, because quite frankly, it's justified, and I'm actually aiming my anger at the right place. Not at grunge, not at Kane, not at music fans, and not at people like producers. It's at the goddamn music industry and their higher-ups. And it's because of this bullshit that Kane ultimately went on a near-decade-long hiatus from the music industry. No tours, no new music projects between 1991 and 1999, even though he still played music, and to this day, Kane hasn't done a solo tour. So you may be wondering, what did Kane do during those years? Well, he worked on graphic design stuff and video games. In fact, I did a video on the latter of those two endeavors, so go check it out if that interests you. If you want to see more on what Kane did musically after Saints and Sinners, I've done videos on his later music projects, namely Under a Wild Sky, a project called Flash FX, and the unreleased Kane Roberts album, Touched. And there it is. That is the tale of Saints and Sinners. Well, almost. Yes, there's more. For one, there's a few songs on Kane's 2012 album Unsung Radio that are stated to be from the sessions for the Saints and Sinners album. And not only that, there was a reissue of Saints and Sinners, released the same year, that added 4 new bonus tracks. Most of which are from the Saints and Sinners sessions. I say most for reasons that you'll soon see. Let's cover the bonus tracks first, as those are a bit more closely linked to Saints and Sinners due to them being part of this 2012 reissue. These songs, all written by Kane, are House Burning Down, Waiting for You, Dirty Blonde, and White Trash. These all also appear on certain editions of Unsung Radio, and I'll cover any differences between the versions found on each one. House Burning Down, also referred to as This House is Burning Down on Unsung Radio, is one of the earliest songs Kane did for this album. Written and recorded in 1989, as stated in Kane's description for this song is a perfect midpoint between his tenure with Alice Cooper, and by extension his first solo album, and Saints and Sinners. I'll actually read this description word for word. Ah, yes. Hollywood, California, 1989. Sunset Boulevard was still the home of glam metal. Tommy's Burgers, rock clubs, Harley Davidsons, and all the glitter and trash you could ever handle. They even still allowed working girls to do their business right there on the strip. I'm telling you, it was a festival for the senses to just drive down that boulevard at night. And it was those Hollywood nights where this song was born. We were still trying to figure out what direction the Saints and Sinners project would head, so I just wrote day and night trying to feed the muse. I was between lives then. Alice Cooper and I went our separate ways. I was on my way from MCA Records to Geffen. My relationships had been ravaged by years of touring. Me and the boys took this and a bunch of other songs into the studio, and recorded demos with rock in our hungry souls and maybe a Tommy's Burger in our stomachs. Not only this, but there are 2 descriptions I found from Kane on Facebook around the time that this reissue was being worked on and released. I'll read them both now for you guys. So Yester Rock's Saints and Sinners Plus EP reissue is in full production and should be out soon. The remaster sounds pretty hot and I love the cross-section of songs on the EP. One of my favorite unreleased bits, House Burning Down, was recorded about 6 months before heading into the studio for Saints, and I'm real glad they've included it in the package. This next description starts with Kane saying that the record company might get mad at Kane for sharing a clip of this song, which, honestly, that's Kane for ya. Okay, the record company might get pissed off at me for doing this, but here's a sample clip of one of the bonus tracks that will be on the Yesterrock Saints and Sinners reissue. This House is Burning Down was recorded at EMI Studios in Hollywood, California, about 3 months before recording the Saints album. At the time, I was logging serious hang time at the club scene in Hollywood, and I feel that LA sound is reflected a bit here. I'll post more in the next few weeks. Kane also mentions in a post that this is one of his favorite songs out of the 4 new bonus tracks, though it's cutting it close with Dirty Blonde. As for the song itself, immediately the sound proves my previous point right. This is the perfect midpoint between Saints and Sinners and Kane's first solo album. The prominent guitar harmonies of Saints and Sinners, but Kane's voice seems to be early on in the vocal training, if he had been in the process of it at all. This song stands out to me, and that's because it's a rare taste of this intermediate point between the 2 albums. And I feel it has some common ground for songs like City of Pain, especially in how Kane's voice sounds. But that aside, this song starts with a sort of calm before the storm, something that is interesting paired with some lyrics that appear later in the song, namely lyrics like "The thunder rolls across the sky, still the lightning strikes without warning." And there's a sort of urgency in this song, with lyrics like "break down the door and run through the night." It gives me a vibe that shows that you have to get out of this house before it burns down, and before it burns you along with it. And the solo adds such a dramatic, cinematic flair to it, especially when Kane cries out, "We can't go on another day after it." And the way Kane describes the storm happening with this makes it feel like the stakes are at an all-time high. Even though safety is within reach, you still feel like you just can't escape. As for any difference between the Saints and Sinners version and the Unsung Radio version of the song, aside from the title, it's mostly just minor mixing differences, most notably the length of the fade-out. I've uploaded both versions of this song to my channel, so if you want to see if you can catch any of these minor differences, you can. Up next is the song Waiting For You, also referred to as I'm Waiting For You on Unsung Radio, is not actually a song meant for Saints and Sinners. Yes, it predates Saints and Sinners, but here's the thing. It also predates Kane's tenure with Alice Cooper. Now, a specific year isn't noted for the song, but Kane does state that he was in his early 20s when this was recorded. So, let me read the full description real quick. Yeah, me in my early 20s, feeling like it was all in front of me. For this demo, I was in Bearsville Studios in New York, with some real talent on every inch of this recording. Strange joint, that Bearsville studio. Place was crawling with real hippies and freaks, and in the middle of a session, the drummer from Frank Zappa's original band would drop in. Maybe Todd Rundgren or Mick Jagger would swing by. I was like a kid in awe of everyone, and just amazed at every moment of every frickin' day. I believe this is one of the songs that Bob Ezrin heard that inspired him to tell Alice about me. I included this demo because it just captures a moment in time right before things went into hyperdrive. And boy oh boy, the sound of this song immediately clues you in on the fact that it's not from the Saints and Sinners sessions, let alone the sessions for his first album. His voice here! He sings in a lower range here, and I just adore it! There's just something about it that gets me. It gives me this image of Kane being in a club, performing on stage, and that's very appropriate considering this is from his club days. And the solo, with a nice touch of Kane's shredding sort of style, gives us even more of a look at Kane's musical evolution that many people may not be aware of. And do not get me started on the lyrics, because holy shit, my heart simply cannot take this. These arms want to hold you close to me, coming from Kane, makes it so he doesn't have to tell me, no, don't you run, don't you hide, to say the least. And the way Kane begs, but I gotta know, do you want me, do you love me, feel the way I do, and how he holds that note on that last word. And the backing vocals in the chorus just add so much to it. And the keyboards that come in during the pre-chorus is just heaven to my ears. Considering that Kane says that this was one of the songs that got him the gig with Alice Cooper, it's no wonder. This song is amazing, and it shows off Kane's songwriting and amazing musicianship. And, of course, a glimpse of him before when most people learned of him. Sure, I may have questioned why the song was put on here, as it's not from the Saints and Sinners sessions, but come on, can you blame him? This is a great song. Ah, but I'm not done talking about this song yet. Far from it. Because there's a version of this song on Unsung Radio that's vastly different from this one. Yes, fundamentally, it's the same song, but the differences between these two versions are night and day. Before I go into that though, Kane talks about the song in a commentary track. So take it away, Kane.
Okay, so it's heartbreak time. Earlier today, I was driving through Sherman Oaks. It's a little town right next to Hollywood. And I drove by the Guitar Center. Above the Guitar Center, there's photos of some of the biggest guitar heroes to ever walk the earth. And one of the photos is of Jeff Beck. And it made me think about my Les Paul. I had a 20th anniversary Les Paul with rewired Jeff Beck humbucker pickups. I used to carry it around with me all the time when I'd go on tour because it was kind of my good luck charm, you know. Just wanted it with me no matter where I went. I'd had it since I was a kid. And I remember waking up, it was maybe a few days after I got home after the second Alice Cooper tour, and I realized that I didn't know where my Les Paul was. And a lot of times when the equipment comes in transit from being on the road, it ends up going to a storage facility, and then they deliver it to your place. Well, my Les Paul never came back, so somehow it got stolen or I lost it. If anybody knows where it is, maybe drop me a line, tell me how she's doing. You know, you can keep it and keep playing it, but that's not the point. This may be the only song that features that guitar. It's called I'm Waiting for You. I must have been in my 20s. It was the first time my band ended up on the radio. So we delivered it to the station, and we ran home and we sat in front of the radio. And yeah, we were totally jazzed when we finally came on, and we thought, you know, hey, we've hit the big time. Anyway, check this one out. Just remember my Les Paul, and you can shed a tear with me.
So, this song has a guitar that doesn't appear on any of Kane's other songs. A blonde 20th anniversary Les Paul. Yes, I know, most of us Kane fans don't associate a Les Paul with Kane. For the most part, if you don't count the Ibanez endorsement fiasco that I mentioned earlier. This makes me wonder if the Saints and Sinners version also has this guitar. Anyways, the version on Unsung Radio is at a much faster pace. And the key of this song is different, with Kane singing in a higher range. With a distinct lack of keyboards and more guitar riffs from Kane, I think this is a later version of I'm Waiting for You. A faster pace, more ad-libs, added riffs. This is more developed, and considering this is presumably the version that would wind up being played on the radio, it makes sense. Ah, Kane's radio debut. Little did he know even bigger milestones were on the horizon. I wonder what Kane back then would have thought if he were told he'd be in Alice Cooper's band. Especially after him opening for Alice in 1981 during the Special Forces tour with his solo band Skywire. Which, by the way, I'd love to do a video on Skywire. I've found a bit of info on that band, but I want to find more before I make a video on it. As for my favorite part of the song, it's just before the solo. The way Kane cries out, "I'm here, waiting." It just adds so much to the song, even though it's so simple. And while the backing vocals during the chorus are way different here, not straying much from the chorus itself unlike the Saints and Sinners version, I feel the lead guitar makes up for this. And the rhythm guitar during the solo taking a different rhythm than the rest of the song is the cherry on top. Amusingly, this version was the version I heard first. I mean, okay, yeah, that shouldn't be a surprise. Like, there was no way the Saints and Sinners version would have been the first one I heard, considering I had to put these bonus tracks online myself. I'll get into that after I'm done covering all these songs, though. The next song is Dirty Blonde, and much like Waiting for You, this is seemingly not a song from the Saints and Sinners sessions. Okay, now that's odd. Waiting for You makes a bit of sense because you could assume that maybe he had plans to re-record the song and touch it up for Saints and Sinners. But a song from 1993? I wonder why Kane included this one here over something like One Step to Heaven or another song from the Saints and Sinners sessions. Regardless, I'll read the description Kane provides for this song. This is my tribute band song. Dirty Blonde was recorded at Village Recorders in Santa Monica, and I played and sang everything except the bass. Earlier that year, 1993, I was wandering around Carlsbad, California, a beach community, and a cute cashier, puppy cute and that other nastier kind of cute, at a restaurant rang up my bill and asked me out of the blue if I played guitar. I told her part of the truth, and she said she loves guitar. I said, "Oh yeah?" And she said, "Fuck, it makes me feel like a dirty blonde." And she started dancing to Ruby Tuesday like it's hard to describe. I wrote and recorded this tight little number as a tribute to a tight little number. Not only do we get this description, but Kane provided yet another description for the song on his Facebook around the time this reissue was released. I'll also read that for you guys now. Here's a sample of Dirty Blonde from the Saints and Sinners Collector's Edition bonus CD. Written right before the Saints album, it was inspired by a dancing girl at a clothing store in Carlsbad, California. Where'd she learn to move like that? This is, okay, I should have figured this would happen eventually. Kane doesn't have a photographic memory unlike me, but these descriptions clash with each other. Now, don't get me wrong, it could have easily been written prior to Saints and Sinners and then got recorded in 1993, but then the issue comes up with the writing part, because Kane says he wrote and recorded it in 1993 in the first description. See, this is generally what I mean whenever I mention Kane may not have the best memory. I'm not sure how this happened, but I do know one thing though. Kane also states that this may be his favorite song out of these 4 bonus tracks, though he also says House Burning Down is one he also really likes, as, and I quote, he's kind of a guitar freak. So that's something. For the song itself, it starts with a very unique guitar sound that hasn't been heard in any of Kane's songs prior to this one. We also hear a tambourine, which is new here for Kane. And knowing the inspiration behind this song, the lyrics, unsurprisingly, mirror this. With lyrics like "her body moves to a serious backbeat" and "if you want to dance, let me show you how," the inspiration Kane talks about shines through pretty damn clearly. And this song really does encompass a lot of those summer beach vibes with the instrumentation alone. Not only that, but if this song was in fact recorded in 1993, this also provides more of a glimpse into Kane's musical evolution after the Saints and Sinners album. Something I love about this song is that this feels very freeing. It encourages you to let loose. Come on, thumbs down to the 9 to 5 Dreams really sums it up. And it's perfect, because the only way to dance is to let loose. Don't let anything hold you back. I'm having too much fun working these lyric references into the script. It's my script. I get to do what I want. White Trash is the final song on this album during 1991. Hey, there we go. Now we're back on the songs that have origins in Saints and Sinners. Or that's what I thought before one of these descriptions proved my assumption wrong. Kane states that this song was recorded on the road. Yeah. My guess is that this was recorded during their radio tour, which was during 1991. And considering Saints and Sinners was released in early 1991, it's pretty likely that this is the case. So in truth, only one of these songs was recorded during the Saints and Sinners sessions. That's a bit bizarre. I don't know how else to describe it. As I have done for these last 3 songs, I'll read the description that's found on the reissue. On tour, when I get an idea for a song, it usually arrives full bore in a flood of lyrics and melodies and chords. In New Orleans in 1991, I found a small studio and went in for a day to record the song. During a small break, I met a French girl outside, and I immediately noticed her sexy voice and asked if she would record with me. She said she needed to read the lyrics, and I left her in a small office and went back to play some guitar. When I returned, I opened the door and she was pleasuring herself to the lyrics. She described the lyrics as wet. You could hear how wet in the section after the guitar break. I can't. Kane, why must you be so horny? I mean, okay, yeah, that's how rock stars are. But come on, you can't just casually mention someone pleasuring herself to your music. You just can't. Not because it's wrong, because there is nothing wrong with this. But because I get too flustered to think straight. That aside, there's another description on Kane's Facebook that I'll read now, despite the fact that my brain and nerves got scrambled by Kane. So the official release date of the Saints and Sinners remastered CD is July 13th, 2012. We'll also have a limited number of special autographed CDs with extra stuff attached available shortly after the 13th. Here's another sample of one of the bonus tracks. White Trash was recorded on the road in a small funk-ass studio in New Orleans. I remember the place because there was a girl hanging out on the street outside the place. It was raining, so she came inside with us. She ended up doing an overdub, and when it comes out, I suggest you listen to it with headphones. Her voice is insanely erotic. This song starts with a riff that feels very representative of the lyrics, with lyrics like "Deep in the South, wet from the heat of the bayou." We also see the return of the tambourine when the chorus kicks in. And I love how this song's instrumentation intensifies and escalates with the choruses. It makes me think of the contrast of the woman Kane sings about, how she hides her more scandalous side from the world around her. And the drums before the solo get me pumped every damn time, with Kane yelling as he no doubt is just as pumped as I am. And after a badass solo that emphasizes the vibes of the setting Kane has put us into, the bridge is more keyboard focused, where not only do we finally get to hear the woman that Kane mentioned in the description for the song, but as she speaks, we hear Kane sing, "Pleasure seekers love what they do, and lovers keep telling lies." Those lyrics fit perfectly with the subject matter at hand, if you ask me. As for what the woman is saying, I actually have no idea. But my guess is that she may be speaking in French, considering Kane makes a point to mention that she's French. So considering that I don't know French, that explains why I cannot figure out what her lyrics are. If any of you happen to know French, I'm curious to see if anyone could figure out what she's saying. Let me know in the comments, and I'll pin it. But after that bridge of the song, we return to the intense beat of the chorus. And the way Kane belts out these lyrics is amazing. It makes me want to yell these lyrics until I'm out of breath and red in the face. Man, Kane has a knack for doing that, doesn't he? Needless to say though, this song is very atmospheric, and Kane has done a brilliant job in conveying the setting he's singing about, along with his guitarmanship. I can almost feel the humidity of it all, after a rainy summer night. And with that, those are the 4 bonus tracks for Saints and Sinners. But I'm still not done, because there are a few more songs I'd like to talk about that Kane put on Unsung Radio. All of these, once again, are written by Kane alone, so I won't repeat myself a bunch of times. The songs in question are One Step to Heaven, I Bleed For You, and City of Pain. Let's get into them. City of Pain, also referred to as In the City of Pain, is the first song, and being the first song on the second half of Unsung Radio, we hear Kane talk about this song to start this disc off. I think I'll let Kane do the talking for this, so go for it, big guy!
Okay, I'm standing outside Village Recorders in West Los Angeles. There's no way for you to know if I'm actually standing here. I may be under a bridge in East LA in my underwear for all you know, but hey, take your pick. Anyway, we recorded City of Pain here along with a few other songs. My most treasured memory of this session, I was testing the mic and I noticed a rather unusual looking pop screen. Pop screens are these little filters that they put in front of the microphones when anybody records. And it's supposed to prevent any kind of popping sounds when you sing the letter P directly into the microphones. So I'm looking at this really strange screen, it's right in my face, and I asked the engineer about it, and he said Stevie Nicks had been there with Fleetwood Mac, and she had left a pair of her pantyhose, and they cut the crotch out and wrapped it around this coat hanger, and that was the pop screen. So, to be honest with you, I was okay with that. In fact, I requested it because, you know, I got a great sound. I know what you're thinking, but I chose to believe that, yes, they were hers. So, in fact, I still do believe that. I just hope they weren't Mick Fleetwood's. Anyway, so check this out, City of Pain.
Kane really likes having these interesting stories, doesn't he? Never thought I'd hear about Stevie Nicks' pantyhose being used for a pop screen. Ah, Kane, you never fail to amaze me. So the next time you listen to the song, think about that, and you'll get a good chuckle out of it. But this means that Kane hardly talks about the song itself. Man. And that paired with the fact that I couldn't find anything where Kane talks about this song online is a bit aggravating. I want to hear about the inspiration behind this song, damn it. But I'll at least talk about the song itself. The intro fades in, something that's really interesting to me. Not many songs I've heard do that. One song I can think of that does this, actually, is Kiss's song Killer off of their Creatures of the Night album. That aside, we also get a powerful yell from Kane to kick this song off. And right away, the vocals clearly show the age of this song. His voice has that rougher sound, being earlier on in the making of Saints and Sinners before his vocal training had really progressed. I feel this is most apparent in the chorus as Kane yells, "In the city of pain, nobody cares." I love the lyrics in the song, by the way, especially with the visuals that the lyrics "Can you see the fire burning in the chapel" brings. I feel like this could be a parallel to House Burning Down in some respects, and considering they seem to come from around the same time frame, maybe it isn't just me stretching things. And I have to mention how the lyrics, "You play a losing game," only further provides a feeling as to how this city of pain affects you, how you'll find yourself wandering through the night. Man, Kane is amazing at writing songs. The solo in this song is also really cool, with what I think is some tapping techniques here. But I just adore the bridge in this song, from the instrumentation simmering down a bit, as Kane questions, "Are you the savior?" and how he begs, "Promise me light in the dark," and "Come on now, baby, preach to me," just kills me. We also get some brief bits of keyboard at the end, as the song fades out with Kane crying out, "How long?" over and over, begging the question he asks in the chorus, "How long can you stay?" I Bleed For You is up next, and while we don't get a commentary track for it, Kane did talk about it online in a Facebook post that I'll read now. Here's a sample from the 10 unreleased song bonus CD that includes Kane's Phoenix Down recordings. Bleed was recorded at EMI Studios in Hollywood and features the drummer from my first album, Victor Russo. Again, right before the Saints album. Not mastered yet, but still sounds pretty hot. This song I remember using my Jackson for the rhythm guitar parts and my Kramer for the soloing. One take for pretty much everything, vocals included. EMI has a nice studio right in the heart of Hollywood, and we just felt it had such an LA rock sound we needed to be there. The bonus CD will feature lots of extras that we'll tell you about as soon as they're locked down. Hey, wait a minute! You're telling me these songs have Kane's initial solo band playing them? I mean, yeah, you could assume maybe Steve Steele isn't on this track, but considering he plays bass on Saints and Sinners, I feel it's a safe bet to say it's him playing bass here. This is criminal justice! Okay, I know, they stopped using that name by then, but come on, I like that band name. Anyways, on to the song itself. I love how this song starts up, from the drums to how the guitar riff smoothly rides into the main melody. And I love how Kane cries out, "I bleed for you, baby, and I die for you." And it's quite literally crying out when he says, "And I cry for you." And again, his vocals here show how early on this is in the Saints and Sinners timeline with the rough sound, something only emphasized by the fact that this isn't fully mastered yet. And with the bridge after the solo, I've begun to see that these songs have similar structures, with the instruments easing down for a moment before Kane decides to swing hard once again back into the chorus, even harder than he had before. And I like it! It's a solid structure, and it shows Kane's fondness of giving his listeners a nice doses of whiplash. This song feels like a definitive Kane song, and it's a shame that these songs are so underrated, especially when they have connections to Kane's most popular album. But I'll get into that later. One Step to Heaven is the last of these songs, and while I haven't found anything on any of Kane's social media pages where he talks about this, he does talk about this song on a commentary track on Unsung Radio. So I'll let Kane take it from here.
Hey, so I'm here on Sunset Boulevard. I pulled my car off to the side of the road because I drove by the Rainbow and it brought back all these memories, the Rainbow Bar and Grill. And it just brought to mind all the different realities that you go through in a life. I mean, 1 second I'm playing strip clubs in New York, dealing cards at a blackjack game to make money. I've got a beat-up old Chevy Monza. The gas gauge is always on empty. The next minute, I'm in Maui, writing songs with Alice Cooper. The next hour, I'm working my way down Sunset Strip with my friends in the car. We're about to do an all-nighter, which was not advisable because the next day I had to be in EMI Studios. We were starting to write for the Saints and Sinners record. But the thought crossed my mind, you know. We're always one step away from a new life, a new reality, from living some kind of a different dream. So that's where this song comes from. We did make it in the studio the next day. We recorded this song along with a couple of others. I Bleed For You, I think, was one of them. But this song, One Step to Heaven, that's what it's about. All we got to do is step into the light. Check it out.
Well, this is a profound song. Inspired by Kane's ever-changing life, how he went from clubs to being part of Alice Cooper's band, riding with him in Maui in the blink of an eye. Kane also mentions this song was recorded with a couple of other songs, which we come to find out are I Bleed For You and City of Pain. We also learn that this song is from early on in the Saints and Sinners sessions, so this once again will serve as a midpoint between Kane's debut album and the Saints and Sinners album in terms of sound. And I feel his vocals here especially reflect this, because his voice sounds more like it did on his first album, much rougher. My favorite lyric in this song has to be "Bang bang, shoot the love gun," because when I first heard this song, I absolutely lost my shit at the fact that someone else other than Kiss used the term love gun. And I mean that in a good way because I got way too excited. Like, oh my god, no way, Kane said love gun! He says it! That aside, this song starts out immediately with a strong guitar riff, one that makes me feel like something is coming, the anticipation has begun. You're just another bleeding heart, waiting for an angel's touch is one of the most awesome lyrics I've ever heard. And the way Kane belts out, "Come over here baby, step in the light," in the chorus afterwards, just shows the power behind this song. From the inspiration to the words Kane is singing, this song is just so powerful. Kane is stepping into the light, and he's bringing us along for the ride. And the solo gives the song such a cinematic feel to me. I could just imagine the light Kane sings about getting more intense here, getting closer and closer, whether or not you try and turn away. Maybe you're afraid of the possibilities, but there's no running away now, because you heard what Kane said. There's no way out. This song also breaks the pattern in the last two set. Instead of having a bridge, Kane swings straight back into the pre-chorus. I'm a bit sad this didn't wind up on the final album, but it makes sense. After all, this song, and the previous songs on Unsung Radio, were all from when Kane was still figuring out the direction the project would go in. In the end, this song doesn't go in the direction Kane wound up choosing. But the fact that we get to hear it all is something, and that's good enough for me. I know I'm saying this a lot, but there's more I want to talk about. I keep digging and digging, man. But seriously, there are two more songs I'd like to cover. One of these is Walking on Shadows, a song found on Under a Wild Sky and, by extension, Unsung Radio. It has origins within Saints and Sinners. This is stated on Kane's Facebook in a post from early 2012, and it reveals something else that's interesting. Check out the previously unreleased song Walking on Shadows on my official site. It almost ended up on Saints and Sinners, but Des and I went for other options. You don't have to buy it, but just check out the sample for an idea of what it's about. That link is very interesting. Relive, huh? Say, haven't I seen that before? Why, yes, I have. Relive the End, the original Under a Wild Sky reissue deal, which ultimately became Unsung Radio. Though I do have one little comment to make. It's not exactly unreleased. Okay, before you get on me with something like, no shit, Nash, it's released now, I mean it was still somewhat released when Kane said this. It was on the Japanese release of Under a Wild Sky as a bonus track, alongside a re-recording of You Always Want It, which, as you already know, is one of the Saints and Sinners tracks. So that makes those two songs being paired together as bonus tracks make sense. But that's not all, because Kane mentions another interesting bit in another post that I'll read now. A new song has been added to Kane's website. Well, okay, not entirely new, but it's a remix of one we bet you haven't heard. Walking on Shadows. It's also the seed for a song you may very well be acquainted with. Ah, so the connection between Saints and Sinners and Walking on Shadows is a bit more deep than you might have expected. One of these songs is inherently linked to Walking on Shadows. But now the question stands, which song is it? Well, after some digging, it seems it might be Too Far Gone. For one, remember how Kane mentioned the writing process of Too Far Gone? Wouldn't it make a lot of sense considering the possibility that Walking on Shadows may have evolved into Too Far Gone in some respect? Although when I asked Kane about it, initially he didn't seem to remember. But when someone commented on a post where Kane shared it, saying Too Far Gone must be the other side of Walking on Shadows, Kane seems to confirm this. So I think that gives us our verdict on that. The next song I'd like to cover is a song called Self-Control. Now, I have zero confirmation on this being connected to Saints and Sinners, but I cannot deny for a second that this song has similarities to songs like City of Pain, White Trash, and Dirty Blonde. Listen to the guitars, the fade-in intro, and the vocals absolutely fit in with the latter two songs in particular. Sure, maybe this wouldn't be from the Saints and Sinners sessions, but if it's from the same time frame as White Trash and Dirty Blonde, it's part of that era. I'm upset that this doesn't get a commentary track, but considering it doesn't appear on every version of Unsung Radio, I guess it makes sense. But I'm still upset about it. So, there is one last thing I'd like to cover before I wrap this all up. I mentioned earlier that I myself had to upload the 4 bonus tracks for this album. Why? Well, I've mentioned this in another video, but I'd like to cover it again here, as it's very much relevant to do so for this video. These 4 songs were nowhere online. Trust me, I looked everywhere. Everywhere. I even had friends looking into it, but to no avail. So I had to specifically buy this album, this specific edition, myself. Not just to own this album, because I didn't own it prior to that time, but because I needed to hear those songs. There weren't even previews online. Even the re-recording for You Always Want It had that. But none of these songs did. And if they did, considering Kane did share previews, they weren't archived properly, just like how the Flesh FX songs weren't archived properly. So, I did it myself. I uploaded them here. All of them. So if you haven't heard them, you can check them out here. And what's funny is that not even Kane had heard these songs in quite some time. I mentioned one of the songs to him and he outright told me he hadn't heard it in ages. Yes, I sent him the playlist link, of course. But yeah, Kane's music hasn't been managed very well. Like, promotionally and distribution-wise. And in terms of streaming services. I've mentioned this before, but not only are these 4 bonus tracks not on streaming platforms, but many of Kane's songs are missing from these platforms in general. In fact, I'll actually list them all now. House Burning Down, both the Saints and Sinners and Unsung Radio versions of Waiting for You, Dirty Blonde, White Trash, I Want It Again, Love Gone Wrong, Blind, Neverland, Alive and Well, the 1999 re-recordings of Rebel Heart and You Always Want It, Robot, the demo versions of Rain and In Another Life, Louise, the commentary tracks and guitar stroke tracks off of Unsung Radio, and a remixed version of the song Wrong that can be found on the Japanese release of The New Normal. The last of these I believe can be found on Spotify if you're in Japan, but it wouldn't hurt to have it accessible to every Kane fan out there. And I would mention the song Inside of You, which was part of the Flesh Effects, Brains That Won't Die, and Touched projects. But as none of these got proper releases, I can let that slide to an extent. Kane, if you watch this, if you watch up to this point in the video, please, if there is any way I can help fix this, tell me and get me on board. I am fully willing to help fix this ordeal, no matter what it takes. And with that, I think that's everything. So what do I think of this album and everything I've talked about here? Well, Saints and Sinners is Kane's most popular album by far, and it's for good reason. Come on, these songs are amazing. From beautiful ballads that grab you by the heart to songs that get you pumped and ready to rock, this album absolutely had the potential to soar. And that doesn't even begin to scratch the surface in regards to the amount of talent that was put into this album. From Kane himself to people like Desmond Child, this album is a gourmet of killer tunes. The only reason this album didn't get nearly as far as I think it should have is the fact that the music industry not only was changing, but the music industry likes screwing people over. And of course, the music videos are absolute eye candy. The contrast between the two videos makes them even more memorable, and I feel like it plays into the album name in a way, with Does Anybody Really Fall in Love Anymore playing into the Saints half, and Twisted playing into the Sinners half. So much work was put into this album, and considering how long Kane worked on it, that shouldn't be surprising. Kane puts his heart and soul into these songs, no matter what, and that's what makes them so good. And I'm glad that Kane gave us a further insight into this album with the 2012 reissue, adding songs from both before and during this era. We get a pretty thorough timeline of Kane's musical evolution as he transitioned into the 90s as a result, which is always fun to look at. Simply put, Saints and Sinners kicks ass. Alright, now I've actually covered everything. Without further ado, this has been Nash Bandit, and as Kane Roberts would say, rock the fuck on!